Episode 184 of the Interpretation Station is called to order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm back again for the third day running. I'm making my third episode in the space of 3 days. It will once again be in the world-famous Wham, Bam, Thank You, Roland format. I'm going to take a break after today's one. 3 and 3. It's quite hard work having to prepare it, having to film it and then produce it. But like I say, I'm on summer holidays, so I've got a time. I need to keep all the Interpretation Station subscribers happy. I've had a fairly productive afternoon so far. I managed to fill in all my application forms to join AIC. Yes, I'm going to join AIC. Hopefully, I've got my sponsors. I've just submitted the application forms, paid the $50 francs application fee. I understand there will be an annual subscription fee hot on its heels, but that obviously depends if I'm accepted or not. If there are any AIC members out there watching me, give us a shout in the comments. You might wonder why only now am I joining AIC. Well, to tell you the truth, the only job I've ever done in example to say I think AIC is an important organization to be a member of. So I've submitted my application form. Now it's up to the good people there to decide whether or not they want me. So I'm a nice guy, really. Okay. Anyway, look, I've got to keep this episode to under 20 minutes. So we've got Spanish for you today. Statement by the group ALBA, which is one of the leading lights in ALBA, I believe, is Venezuela. So I'm not certain which country it was exactly that delivered it. So this was delivered dated 15th of June. I'm going to share the screen with you. Okay, as you'll see up on the screen, and this was the 15th of June. This was actually a meeting that was in Bonn, okay, in Germany. I serviced that meeting, and it was a meeting of the UNFCCC subsidiary bodies, okay. So the Climate Change Agreement has basically two subsidiary bodies within it, okay? One is the SBI, the subsidiary body on implementation. One is the SUBSTA, okay, you can see them here, which is the subsidiary body for scientific and technological advice. That's the A, isn't it? Advice. Yes, I had to double check that one. So for scientific and technological advice, they're the subsidiary bodies. Organus subsidiari. You can see, I should have maybe marked that before, but it's good to know these, okay? So they're the subsidiary bodies, Substa, SBI, and they basically meet in between COPs. So it's like, I don't know, I guess you might say a kind of midterm review of what progress has been made since the last COP. So the last COP was the one in Sharm el-Sheikh in November. There'll be another one in this November in Dubai. So this was like a halfway midterm review sort of thingy. Okay, as you know, with the Wham Bam, thank you, Roland, I basically take you through the interesting vocab that's used in the statement, and then at the very end, I will whiz through with a site translation, okay, seeing if I can offer you any other new alternatives, interesting solutions. Okay, so what's the first thing I've made a note of here? Hacer esta intervención, very straightforward. Just remember to deliver a statement. That's really the nicest way in English to express that, to deliver this statement. Los órganos subsidiarios, the bodies. So here's you don't say organs, they are bodies here. Now I've put this in brackets, que han venido llevando a cabo. Really, I think that is redundant here. Look, this is present. The work, okay, we'd like, first of all, to thank the chairs of the subsidiary bodies, executive secretary, and all the representatives of countries here for their work in these latest weeks in supporting the search for consensus. You don't really need to say the work that they have been carrying out, just for their work in recent weeks. Here, nos esperan grandes retos. I think that's the most straightforward way of saying this in English is we face, okay? Rather than saying we look forward to major challenges or great challenges await us. If you just want to get rid of the nos esperan, you can just sort of okay, in the Spanish, that the nos is the object, okay? But I think in English we can just turn this around and say we face major challenges for the upcoming meetings, okay? Okay, here I've put a full stop, okay? This is quite a long sentence. We should remember always that the Paris Agreement and the Convention are legally binding instruments which should be maintained. Just full stop. They no pueden ser anulados ni reinterpretados. They cannot be. Now, I've put here anulados. You could, I guess, say annulled, but I had to think about this one a little bit, right? What do we say about conventions, agreements. What's in English? What's the most natural thing to say? I was thinking it's really to repeal. They cannot be repealed or reinterpreted. I think that, if nothing else springs to mind, annul, nullify. The listener will understand, but I think the best English is to say they cannot be repealed. Las obligaciones contraídas. Okay, what do we do with obligations? I think we assume them. Can we contract them? Maybe the obligations contracted. I think assumed again is the best English here. This is some in-house parlance here. A CBDRRC. What is this acronym? Well, CBDR, Common but Differentiated Responsibilities. So they've recently, I don't know, it seems to be that recently that has now become an acronym, and they've tagged on the RC at the end as well. Respective capabilities. Okay, so you can use that when they say that. You can use that as an acronym: common but differentiated responsibilities, respective capabilities. Daños y pérdidas, very important concept when it comes to the UNFCCC. That's to do with loss and damage. Okay, loss and damage, more or less what developed countries should pay developing countries for the financial impacts that they assume in the moving away from fossil fuels. Broken this longer sentence up, I would perhaps say here this includes climate financing. Okay. And then tomando como base sus compromisos, just rather than saying taking as their basis, just say based on, right? It's more straightforward, based on their commitments. Okay, next paragraph, I've crossed out in, rather than saying in this session, what has been highlighted once more. It's a bit clunky. I would just turn the session into the subject of the sentence. This session has highlighted once more that the developed countries, blah, blah, blah. And what have they been doing? Siguen eludiendo su responsabilidad. Okay, they've been evading their responsibility or shirking their responsibility. Se ha demostrado que es totalmente insuficiente. Again, it's in English, you wouldn't really want to say it's demonstrated itself as being completely insufficient. I think it sounds nicer, which has proven completely insufficient. Moving on, cumplimiento en materia de obligaciones. This aversion, okay, to delivering on. Just synthesize this into just saying this aversion to delivering on their commitments, rather than saying this aversion towards delivery when it comes to obligations. I mean, again, you could say that, but it's a lot of words. It's just simpler in English to say this aversion to delivering on their commitments, their financing commitments. Moving on to the next page. Okay, Convención Marco de Naciones Unidas sobre Cambio Climático is, of course, the UNFCCC. That's the easiest way, I think, to say it in English. In fact, the UNF. This is an important element. Okay, contribuciones nacionalmente determinadas. This is an important concept to recognize. Okay, these are called NDCs in English, nationally determined contributions. Okay, that each country has to pay. And as I say, you can just pretty much go straight in. If you hear contribuciones nacionalmente determinadas, you can just say NDCs, go straight in with NDCs. Everyone who's listening in that context should really know what NDCs are. Estamos iniciando las conversaciones sobre los caminos hacia la transición justa. Okay, caminos, pathways, that I think was the word. I think that was the word. You'll notice it used a capital C. I think that was pathways was the word they wanted there. Transición justa. I don't know if you watched my episode very recently from the World, was it the World Meteorological Organization or the ILO or something? And I talked about a just transition. Okay, you'll notice how they put this in capitals, right? Transición justa. Just transition is a thing, okay? It's a sort of buzz expression. Just it's good to be aware of that, so they don't play around with it. You don't start calling it like a fair transition. It's a just transition. Now, why did I put brackets around this? La defensa de los derechos. It occurred to me here. We should all work together, moreover, to promote. I mean, okay, so if you were to render the defense, to promote the protection of the rights of Mother Earth. To be honest, I think you can just say that to promote the rights of Mother Earth. I think that kind of speaks for itself. So it's up to you. Again, I'm just saying that if you were in a hurry, if you're falling behind, I think you could legitimately drop that. Okay, el primer balance global. This is an important one to know if you're working on anything to do with the UNFCCC, the environment, climate change, whatever. So this is a thing, okay? This is the stock take, the first global stock take. This is a new instrument that's being introduced. It's not the first global balance. I didn't. Yeah, so it's a good word to know. I think generally, often they use that in Spanish, balance for stock take. I know, like in French, it's état des lieux, right? But so yeah, Spanish balance. Be aware of that. That can often be a stock take. And then here I've just gone la posición del mundo en términos de abordar el cambio climático. Where the world stands, I think sounds more English, to reflect collectively on where the world stands in terms of tackling climate change, rather than saying on the position of the world. I think when we say the position of the world in English, we kind of almost tend to think where the world is geographically within the universe, for example. Whereas what we really mean here is what the situation is. Where do we stand? Where does the world stand? Debe buscarse la atención prioritaria de grupos vulnerables. So we should, I think just here you could say prioritize vulnerable groups. We must give priority to vulnerable groups such as, rather than, again, I think you could say we should give priority attention. But do you need to say attention? We give priority attention. Rather, if you just say we should give priority to, I think that again really sort of speaks for itself. La nueva meta global. I've put here goal or target question mark. Now, the reason why did I put a question mark there? I think meta, when we talk about meta, we usually talk about targets, okay? In fact, the SDGs all have their metas, okay? Their targets. However, I've never really heard them talk about the new global adaptation target. They tend to talk about the new global adaptation goal. So I would hedge towards goal, to be honest, because that's something I've heard of, whereas the new global target on adaptation I haven't really heard of. So my inclination would be to say goal there. Las medidas coercitivas unilaterales. This is a big thing for, of course, countries like Venezuela or Cuba. So it might be in Cuba that delivered this. I can't remember. They're very against these UCMs, as we call them. Again, that's something you can an acronym that you can use pretty freely, okay? Most listeners should recognize what UCMs are. And now I played around a bit with this one. Una afectación gravísima. So these UCMs are the most sort of straightforward solution. Perhaps afectación would be an obstacle or a hindrance. Okay, there are two perhaps stock solutions for that kind of word. But I was thinking grave roadblocks towards implementing the convention. Getting a bit fancy here, put a couple of question marks there. What do you think? You like it? You like roadblocks? I think it's all right. And that's basically it for this text. Okay, that's the interesting vocab. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just zip through this as if I was sitting in the booth. Okay, quick site translation. Maybe something new springs to mind. Maybe I'll make a mistake here and there. Let's see what I can come up with, okay? Okay, presidents of the subsidiary bodies, executive secretary of the UNFCCC, distinguished delegates. It's my honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the member states of ALBA. We align with a statement by Cuba on behalf of G77 and China. First of all, we'd like to thank the presidents of the subsidiary bodies, the executive secretary, and all the representatives of the countries here for their work in recent weeks in order to support the search for consensus. There were difficult times in all areas. There's still much to be done. We face major challenges for the upcoming meetings and for the COP in Dubai in the UAE this year. However, if we all show commitment and good faith, we are certain that we can move forward towards equitable solutions and with differentiated responsibilities for the benefit of Mother Earth and all humanity. We should always recall that the Convention and the Paris Accords are legally binding instruments which should be maintained. They cannot be repealed or reinterpreted or replaced with new decisions that erode obligations assumed under CBDRC. Whew, what a mouthful. Implementation is urgent. We need more ambitious commitments from developed countries when it comes to mitigation, adaptation, loss and damage, as well as in provision of the means of implementation. This includes climate financing, transfer of technologies and capacity building based on their commitments under the Convention and the Paris Accords. This session has highlighted once more that the developed countries have been shirking their responsibility to provide $100 billion that they promised in terms of climate finance, which has proven to be completely insufficient in assuming the needs or addressing of the needs of the developing countries in mitigation, adaptation, and loss and damage. What troubles us is the conduct of the developed countries who neither wish nor who don't even wish to discuss this matter, avoiding inclusion of the theme in the agenda and evading any kind of genuine involvement in related themes. Genuine, maybe better than real, right? And this is serious since it affects the future of all humanity. This aversion to delivering on their financing obligations is very troubling, considering that at COP28 we should be operationalizing the new fund and arrangements for loss and damage. We trust that in the coming meetings this situation can be reversed, addressed. Speaking of the new international financial architecture, it needs to be just, transparent, and equitable, including greater participation of developing countries in the decision-making processes of these institutions, recognizing and ensuring predictability and availability of sufficient financial resources to meet the needs and priorities identified for the developing countries, and which allow us to achieve the SDGs and implement the UNFCCC. And moreover, we have reaffirmed that the attention given to the challenges of climate change requires substantive progress from non-market-based mechanisms, which are needed to bolster actions in support of implementing actions that are provided for, including when it comes to NDCs. We are starting conversations on pathways towards a just transition. And yes, pathways in the plural. There is no single model for development, and we must place at the center human lives and Mother Earth, adopting approaches based on equity, climate justice, social justice, that take into account national circumstances and realities, emphasizing the need to provide financing and all the means of implementation. And this so that we can move towards the just transition with principles of common but differentiated responsibilities and equity. We must all work together, moreover, to promote the rights of Mother Earth, the right to development of peoples in the context of the climate crisis caused by the global capitalist system. The first global stocktake under the Paris Accords will offer an opportunity to reflect collectively on where the world stands in terms of addressing climate change. Meanwhile, we must operationalize the international loss and damage mechanism as soon as possible and address the theme with the same priority and visibility, or profile maybe, as those of mitigation and adaptation. Moreover, we should seek to give priority to vulnerable groups such as indigenous peoples and women and children. For ALBA, it is crucial to make substantive progress with a view to adopting a framework for a new global goal on adaptation ahead of COP28. Both themes are a priority for the developing countries whose capacity for adaptation and resilience should be bolstered with the necessary provision of means of implementation by the developed countries, given the historic responsibility that they have to us. UCMs are a grave roadblock to implementation of the Convention of the Paris Accords, limiting the capacity for action during the climate crisis and to adopting measures for adaptation, mitigation, and responding to climate change. Finally, the ALBA countries wish to reiterate our willingness to continue working, cooperating in combating climate change through the inclusive, participative multilateralism, thus guaranteeing the success of the COP in Dubai. I thank you. So there you go. Some interesting words coming up in there. I hope you've learned something new. If you have done, please put it in the comments. If you have any new ideas for vocab yourself, put those in the comments. If I had to highlight three things just to take away, remember your CB, they're very much, as I say, these are very much in-house parlance when it comes to meetings on this subject. Remember CBDR, acronym, Common but Differentiated Responsibility. Balance, I think that's going to be a useful word for you. Okay, primero, balance global, the first global stocktake. And by the way, remember what these bodies, okay, the SBI and the SUBSTA are in Spanish, because it's not immediately obvious. So the SUBSTA in Spanish is the OSAC, as you can see here. In fact, Órgano de Asesoramiento Científico y Tecnológico. You will hear that the Spanish speakers use that acronym OSAC, that's SUBSTA, and you'll hear them also use OSE, Órgano Subsidiario de Ejecución. They will use that as well for the SBI. So just bear those details in mind. And remember your national determined contributions as well, just for the cherry on the cake. Okay, I need to keep this below 20 minutes, so I'm going to have to wrap up right now. Like, share, subscribe. All that remains to be said is that episode 184 of the Interpretation Station stands adjourned.
The train is now leaving the Interpretation Station. We next time, folks.